Your powers are weak, old man.
You can't win, Darth. If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
So, do you need another reason or 2 or 10 to get the hell out of Dodge? I think we're up to reason 3,476, but if you go down to the top 10 or even the top 5, you just got to be thinking about what you're going to do when the coming food shortages, and believe me, they're coming, get out of hand. So, if you're going to stay up in the States or Europe or Canada in the first world, wherever, you better have a plan to get through the food crisis. You think it's over? It ain't. And it's not going to be. For now, all we're seeing is sticker shock. You go to the grocery store, things are up 50 to 100%. Sure, it's annoying, it even pisses you off, but most American families and first world families can handle that. Probably less than 5% of American families grow anything in their garden that they can eat. To smoke, maybe, but not eat. Well, maybe. What happens in, let's say, 4, 6, 8 months' time? You go to the supermarket and you find certain shelves that are completely empty. You got less and less choice. And even if you've got the dough, the variety and selection are just not what they were before. Some people are seeing that already, right now. If you aren't worried or at least concerned by now, you ought to be. All right, now I'm going to read something that just came out by Michael Schneider concerning the coming global food shortage. He says, we're being warned well ahead of time that it's coming, the food shortage. Even idiot Joe Biden has publicly admitted that the coming food shortages are going to be real. All right. Michael Schneider didn't say idiot. I shoved in the idiot part, and I'm being overly kind. Idiot, that should be Biden's new pronoun. Anyway, it goes on to say, and the head of the UN World Food Program is telling us we could soon see hell on earth because of the lack of food. It'll be severe. We've got food prices escalating like they never have before, dramatically, all over the globe, and food riots have already erupted in certain countries like Sri Lanka and elsewhere. All right, me Johnny here again. By the way, you may have heard Ecuador is having huge problems with street protestations, and commerce and movement have been shut down last month in practically the whole country, with the indigenous population of over 1 million, all pissed off about inflation and the high cost of food. They want the government to subsidize everything. Obviously, none of them have ever read an economics book, though they're right to be thoroughly pissed at their government because governments have caused this entire mess. More details on that to come. People in Panama, Argentina, and Colombia are taken to the streets too. Anyway, the article goes on to say, most people in the Western world, like the U.S., are treating the food crisis as if it's no big deal at all. Most seem to assume that our leaders have everything under control and that things will work out just fine somehow. The thing is, it says most Americans are not paying much attention to this rapidly growing crisis at all because they don't think it will really impact them personally. For the vast majority of us, a lack of food is something we've never had to be concerned about before. What we're going to see is a lot more empty shelves and a lot higher food prices. We're already seeing widespread shortages of certain products around the country, and when you go into a grocery store, we're seeing something that never happened before. Big empty spots on the shelves, or stock boys cleverly filling the spots in the front row to make them appear like they're full. But if you move a few things around, you'll see deeper into the shelves, they're empty. Now, of course, except in the South and Southeast when a hurricane's coming and people hoard, Americans have never really experienced that kind of thing before. Meanwhile, the ongoing shortage of things like baby formula and tampons just keeps getting worse. Me Johnny here again. How'd that happen? Is it that suddenly there are more babies in the world, with supply just not keeping up with demand? And about that tampon thing, are there suddenly more women in the world, or are they having more? Well, we won't get into that. The present food and supply shortages is just a tiny preview of what's to come. So again, the question is, what's your plan to make it through the worst global food crisis in any of our lifetimes? Just get used to the fact if you hunker down and stay where you are, you won't be just a little irritated. There will be some pain. Which brings us back to having a plan B in Latin America. Just as we discussed on a show about a month ago, as long as you don't locate in a dry, desert-like area, in many cases, all you have to do is drive a stick or a branch into the ground, and in a couple of weeks, it's sprouting. In fact, I know quite a few expats and gringos who've got too much of a good thing. They've got too many vegetables grown in their garden, too many fruit trees, dropping lemons, oranges, mangoes, and avocados in the yard. I see it a lot with gringos and expats. They start a garden or start planting some fruit trees, based on past gardening experience they may have had up in the States or in Canada, where there's a winter deep freeze and one growing season, not 3 or 4, like we have down here in Latin America. So, here in Latin America, when we plan out our garden or lawn, we think, let's not just have one lemon, pear, apple, or avocado tree. We're thinking, man, trees grow so slow, they take years to produce. That's what it's like with trees up in the States anyway. Chances are, too, after years of waiting, you get a dud or two, or a certain percent of them just won't produce, or some of them die. So let's double down. Let's have 2, 3, even 4 of each. Sounds good in theory, right? The more the merrier. If you've got the land, then it doesn't take that much here, that's for sure. Well, true to form, most of us gringos and expats plant way too much, and we end up throwing away half of it, or more than half of it. You longtime listeners have heard me tell the story about what happened to me in my yard in Guatemala. I had a bunch of fruit trees and banana trees. 2 or 3 of everything, in some cases 4. Those trees produced so much that half of it ended up rotting on the ground. Even though I was given 5-gallon buckets of the stuff away, especially lemons, to my cleaning lady and maintenance guy. What a problem to have, huh? Oh, and I haven't even said a word yet about those fantastic, gigantic outdoor food and produce markets. Bottom line, if you live in Latin America, you're never going to run out of food. Unless there's some huge cataclysmic event like getting hit by a comet. However, if you're picky and you're addicted to imported junk, like a lot of the stuff you see on the shelves at Costco, remember, Costco's and Walmarts are everywhere down here. By the way, the Costco's are called Price Marts. Anyway, if you're addicted to some kind of imported food you can only get at Costco or on Amazon, say some boutique chocolate whose cacao pods are harvested exclusively by Nigerian non-binary lesbian virgins. Well, if that's the only kind of chocolate you eat, when the food crisis really hits, you might be SOL. Same thing goes if you're addicted to certain first world brands coming out of the US too, like, let's say, famous Amos cookies or Baskin-Robbins ice cream. When the supply chains break and the food shortages ramp up, that stuff just might disappear from the shelves permanently. But not to worry. You'll certainly have plenty of food choices living in Latin America, where, as you've heard me say before, most all of your basic food items are grown and shipped in locally. Just note that worldwide food shortages are starting already. In fact, just read this morning, there's a severe worldwide shortage of mustard seeds and chili pepper. Chili pepper? What? I bet that suicide hotline number in Mexico is ringing off the hook. I know, nothing to lose sleep over, but this is just the beginning. Shortages are coming and they will be severe, and it won't be temporary either. Take California, Oregon, and Washington, D.C. Talk about shortages. We're talking brain cells here. Nothing temporary about that. Again, the $1 million question is, how's your plan becoming?